Hi and welcome to the Gandalf's Fist podcast. If you are unaware of who we are a progressive rock band from the UK. We are not here to talk to you about music today. In one of our very first interviews with a magazine, we talked about how we are nerds, but well-rounded nerds. So we're here today with our podcast series to talk about nerdy things that we particularly find interesting. And today we are talking about something that I know you are all thinking about. My name is Dean. I am joined by Luke Seven.
Hello.
Stefan, all the way from Germany.
Hello.
And Mr. Ben Bell.
Good afternoon.
Right. We're deliberately not going to title our episode today because we are going to decide what it's going to be called after we're finished recording. This is a brand new idea that nobody has ever thought of before. We're the first to do it, no matter what anybody else says. But we have a subject that we would like to talk about. Luke, do you want to enlighten our listeners as to what we'll be talking about today?
So today we're going to talk about fictional sports and fictional games within movies. And we're going to basically go through and pick the worst ones. We don't want to talk about the best ones. We want to talk about the ones that we think are rubbish.
I would take it one step further, and I think they're all rubbish. Okay, I can't think of a single good example, but maybe I can be proved wrong on that later on in the episode. But we're going to talk about the ones that we really don't like, or at least the ones that sprung to mind first. And there is a tenuous prog link, I suppose, because there's the Nick Mason album, Fictitious Sports, or something like that. I can't remember what it sounds like, but one of his solo records, the drummer from Pink Floyd. We're going to go through, and we've sort of had a little bit of think of the ones that we think are the worst fictional sports in movies, TV, and video games, but I think mainly movies. So, let's kick ourselves off with the first pick. I'm going to jump straight in and nominate Stefan. Stefan, what do you think is the worst fictional sport?
The worst fictional sport, of course, is Quidditch.
Now, this is a controversial subject because you probably already offended quite a lot of the Harry Potter fandom out there with that one, Stefan. Luke, you're a big Harry Potter fan. I'm not so much. Stefan, where do you stand on the little wizard fella?
To be honest, I haven't made it through any of the films without falling asleep in the middle of it.
So coming at it with a little bit of bias, I suppose. Ben, Harry Potter fan?
I have watched the first some and not the remaining others, mainly because I haven't got round to it yet.
So balance. Luke, where do you stand?
I saw the first one at the cinema when it first came out, but I wasn't a fan. And then my wife basically said, I love Harry Potter, you have to watch these. So I basically came at them later on. And yeah, I've seen them all. I've seen them all multiple times. I've read all the books.
So Luke's a Harry Potter fan. Is basically
yeah,
what
I am absolutely. Yeah, I've been to the Wizarding World tour in Watford. I've also been to Universal Studios in Florida twice and done all the Harry Potter stuff there as well.
Do you have a Patronus of your own? A fantasy Patronus? What would it be?
I think it was like a salmon or something.
I have no idea what that means, but I'm going to take that my ignorance in what the hell you're just talking about as certifying Luke as an expert in this field. So
yes, I would take that.
So since as Luke is a professor of Potter, and Stefan falls asleep, perhaps Luke, you could summarize for us what the hell is Quidditch. What is the rules of this fictitious sport?
Okay, so Quidditch is basically a game played on broomsticks. It's a wizarding world, so it's witches and wizards, and they fly around on broomsticks. There's like big hoop things. You could call them like baskets, and then there's like a number of different balls. So there's one ball that you can score goals. You put the ball through the hoop, you score a goal, you get a point. Yeah, that's
like
pretty
basketball.
Simple. Exactly, but on broomsticks and flying.
Okay.
Then, in front of those, you have guys with sticks who basically can fly, and if the ball comes towards them, they can hit it like baseball and whack it away and stop the opposing team scoring the goal. There's also a magical ball that flies around called a snitch. Snitch?
Golden snitch.
It's golden snitch, and
And
basically
the Harry
there's-
Potter of the team has to catch it. And then the game's over.
Yeah, exactly. There's 2 seekers on the thing, and their role in the game is to catch the golden snitch. If you catch the golden snitch, it's worth 150 points, and the game's over.
Okay, so how much is it for like just like a normal put the ball through the hoop? How much is that? Like 10
I think
points?
it's just what? Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's 1 or 10, but it's
So
definitely
like a menial
low.
amount compared to
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. I have to confess, there is other balls in there as well. There's like a thing called a quaffle, and the quaffle basically like it's like a demon ball. It like flies at people and tries to knock them off their broomsticks and stuff. It's it doesn't make a great deal of sense. I will completely admit that, but it is it's visually interesting on the screen in the films.
And would you find yourself wanting to, if it was manifested into reality, would you want to have a go at it?
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
I think it is manifested. There
Yes,
are people playing
do
that game.
play it.
We'll get onto that in a little bit because that is one of my key beefs with this particular thing. But okay, let me flip it around. I was okay at football when I was about 14, but now I'm fat and lazy and I would be awful. But I still like watching football, okay? And there's some sports that I'm awful at that I still don't mind watching. So remove any sort of participatory element to this. If this was a real life sport, would you go into a stadium and watch it?
I mean, the flying on the broomstick thing's got to be worth a watch, right?
Yeah.
I kind of like racing, and there's a lot of like elements of like people like chasing each other and all that kind of thing. So there's kind of that kind of thing going on. It is an exciting visual sport, even if you don't really know what the hell's going on.
Okay.
So yes, I would definitely be a watcher of Quidditch.
So Luke's put forward a good argument as to why Stefan is wrong. Okay. He's saying that you've got lots of different roles to play within this. There's lots of different elements to the game, different ways of scoring, semi-complex. It would be exciting to play, according to Luke, and visually stunning or striking to watch. So a pretty strong argument for it being actually a good fictitious sport. So Stefan, why do you hate this sport?
I don't know where to start. I mean, yeah, flying broomsticks. All right. 4 balls. 4 balls altogether? And the golden whatever with wings?
Okay. So there's an element of these rules, I think, that maybe are a little bit hyperbolic of some sports in real life that have ridiculous like rules and names for things, I guess.
Go
You know.
on. Say it. Which one? Which one?
No.
Which one are you thinking about? Which one are you thinking about?
We
Go
all
on.
know that cricket
We all know
is
that.
only semi-fictitious, Stefan. It exists only in the imagination of certain people. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about that in general. So you have like, a little bit pastiche of public school with like, can't remember what all that stuff you were saying, Luke. There's one called like a quaffle or a vandal weasel or a schniffle shaft or whatever. All these different names for these things that have quite pompous names. But essentially what you're doing is just hitting a ball around. But it is sort of a fantasy movie. The rules in general, having lots of different balls and flying around, I think that's fine. I understand where Luke's coming from. Yeah, absolutely. It would be pretty cool to fly around on a broomstick. But I would argue if I was flying around on a broomstick, the last thing I'd want to be doing is a regimented sport with rules. But in terms of the actual sport itself, I think that Stefan is bang on that this is definitely one of the worst fictitious sports. And I think the reason is it is completely elitist. It is an elitist sport of the highest degree, an elitist fictitious sport of the utmost pomposity.
Can I have a bit of a retort there, but also kind of agree with you?
Okay.
I think this genuinely. I know you talked about the other thing that we're going to come on to, but it genuinely could be lacrosse with horses.
Lacrosse with horses. Is that not a thing? Is it not called polo?
No, but like lacrosse, like where you hook up the ball and you have to throw it through the
Aye.
thing and all that kind of thing.
Okay.
I totally get that. No, absolutely. I'm
what's your
totally on
retort?
board. No, I agree with you.
All right. So you're not retarded. So
No,
good.
I love the movie version of this, but if you boil it down to, and I know what you're going to say, if you have a rubbish broomstick, you're rubbish at the game.
So that's only one tiny part of it. Okay, so that is one sort of thing. It is So, but it starts off is just like, right, the elephant in the room. You have to be a bloody wizard to be able to play it. That's the first thing. You need to have magical powers. So you need to be, that is inherently something that is genetic. Okay. It's down to like accident of birth, whether you were born a wizard or not. It determines whether you are allowed or are able to participate in it. So that's the first part of it. Okay. So it's only a marginal few amount of people who are actually allowed to play it. And the second thing is, I've only seen these movies once, but correct me if I'm wrong. Mainly boys play in this sport. Yeah. There's maybe some girl members on the team, but you've got number one, they have to be wizards. Number two, you're probably going to be a boy. Number three, okay, is Hogwarts, public school boys, aren't they? All these rich kids, all these fancy wizards in their little boarding school flying around on their special brooms. Now, I've not delved deep into the lore of Harry Potter, but I'm pretty sure Hogwarts isn't the only like school for wizards around there. There must be other ones. Now, imagine the sort of Quidditch team that you would have to have at like Workington Polytechnic College version of Hogwarts. They'd be flying around on like squeegees or whatever. So like you say, Luke, you're at a fancy school, you got the bestest equipment and stuff like that. And also back to my first point, the power of the wizard determines how good you are at the sport. And again, wizard's power isn't something that inherently is trained in fiction. Wizards and sorcerers usually are either born powerful or not, and they unlock their true potential at some point, but that potential is usually always there in fiction, whether they're sorcerers, whether they're, fantastical beings, whether they're like somebody like Jean Grey from the X-Men or whatever. They have that power inside of them. So they are inherently born better. And
whereas someone like Pele, he was born rubbish.
Yeah, but he was this comes through like that. You could definitely make an argument though through like nurture versus nature on somebody who's playing football on like the favelas and stuff like that without any shoes and honing their skills in that sort of way with no other way to pass their time versus somebody who's just born a badass wizard. Definitely.
I think you've missed the main reason Quidditch is a poor sport.
Go for it.
That's the golden snitch.
Right.
So
definitely.
It's how big are the teams, Luke? I'm going to quiz you on this.
I think it's 7.
7. So on each team there's 6 people and they're focused around scoring goals essentially. Putting the ball through the hoop.
There's a keeper who obviously keeps goal. And then there's 2 beaters and then there's 2 chasers and then the golden boy.
The Harry Potter.
So there they are, going backwards and forwards, tackling, dodging. I'm using words from football like I know anything about football. But they're doing all of this very skillful stuff on brooms. They're scoring goals. It's 2-4, it's 7-8, it's whatever. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the games gets won because the golden snitch gets hit into Harry Potter's mouth and he swallows it. And that means that they win. Despite all the skill of every team, he managed to swallow a flying ball and he wins.
I think that it's definitely, I made a note before, I thought better look up the rules so I don't look like a complete idiot. And when I saw like, right, you get 1 point or 10 points or whatever we talked about for smacking the ball through the hoop. And then you get, not only does catching that little gold fella end the game, but it scores you 150 points. So that is crazy. You catch it, you win. Okay. So it's like the point of the game isn't all this stuff that you're saying, oh, flying around on broomsticks, got this ball coming at you, and then somebody comes and bashes it away, and then there's people just flying around. It's just basically a game of catch the ball. Whoever catches the ball wins the game. And it's sort of like take the like zeros off it. So we've got 10 to score a normal goal versus 150 to catch the ball thing. So put that down into, Ben was talking about football. If we boil that down into if it was a football game and we introduced that rule, we'd say, right, put the ball in the net, you score 1 goal. Okay. But then what we're going to do is we're going to release a weasel onto the football pitch, and whoever catches the weasel.
Only 1 person on each team.
Okay. So Pele, he gets that job, due to his birth.
And they don't play the rest of the game.
If Pele catches the weasel, he gets 15 goals. The game stops being called football and it starts being called catch the weasel, So I think.
You see, in Quidditch, there's 6 players who are there to entertain the audience by doing something, while the 2 others are sitting boringly on the edge, waiting until they see the golden ball. Then they have a 30-second dash to try and swallow it, or whatever they do, and that's the game.
That is the game. It's just a show. It's a farce.
6 are basically cheerleaders.
The idea is that the golden snitch does not get caught every game, so it's like Harry catching the golden snitch was like, it doesn't happen all the time. The golden snitch isn't caught because the golden snitch is supposed to be sneaky. It's sneaky weasel, Dean. A sneaky weasel doesn't get caught every turn. So Pele could have 15 attempts at it and maybe only catch it once. So it's a game changer, but it's not catch the weasel.
You were saying it like that. That's like a defense of the sport, but in fact it isn't, because I looked this up, and if the thingy doesn't, if the weasel doesn't get caught, then the game doesn't end and it carries on. And there was something on the Harry Potter Wikipedia page that said one of these Quidditch things went on for like 2 years or something because nobody caught the weasel.
Oh, there we
and
go.
So
I didn't know that.
So basically, nobody wants to see Pele chasing a weasel for 2 years, is what I'm saying.
You're starting to win me over, actually. That sounds like a great... Stefan, do you still hate this game, or are you being swung too?
Come on, chase the weasel for 2 years. Chase the weasel.
The thing that was foreshadowed earlier, which I said we would get back to, is the fact that this has manifested itself into not being a fictitious sport anymore. It is now.
No. Yeah, they're out there. I'm not going to be mean, but the people that play Quidditch for real, they're not the strapping young men and women that you see in the films. It tends to be quite bookish people wandering around with a broomstick, trying to catch a. How do they do? Has anybody watched this? How do they have the golden snitch in real world, not magical world Quidditch? Because I don't know. I don't know.
They've got a weasel and they've painted it gold.
Yeah, straight away. I mean, and if they haven't, they will be after they've listened to this. They definitely will. They'll be like, you can imagine turning up and you got all your kit and stuff, and you're in the locker room and you're getting your boots on and you're putting your shin pads on and you're greasing up. You're putting your hat on and you're greasing up your broom, and then somebody says, "You bought the weasel, right?"
Have we got anyone from the RSPCA in our viewer list? Are we going to be needing to put out a disclaimer here? We are not encouraging the painting of weasels.
Speak for yourself, Ben. Speak for yourself. Paint all those weasels. Paint them all.
Yeah, no. This band 100% endorses the painting of weasels. If you can catch one, then it's your God-given right to paint it. Like they said, don't be mean to people who are just... And if people are having a fun with it, then fair play to them. But I just think, come on. If you're going to play a sport and you're going to go outside, you're going to enjoy being outside, nobody wants to play a sport that could potentially go on for like days and days where the rules are ambiguous and there's like, hard balls being thrown around left, right and center or anything like that. Nobody wants to play that sport, do they, Ben?
I'm sorry. But both myself and Ben quite like cricket, and this slander will not stand, Marsh. This slander will not stand.
You know what? I don't have a beef with cricket, but I have a beef with myself in that it's a frustrating game when you play it as... It's a game that I think is better to play than is to watch. And when you're like playing it at school, you're like, right, it's going to be my turn to bat. And you wait around for ages and ages and ages and ages. You do all the fielding and stuff, and then they swap sides and stuff. And then you wait for your turn to bat. And it's like, oh shit, I'm out. That's what my experience of cricket was. And it's the sort of thing that you think, right, when it's my turn to be batting, I'm going to smack that mother right over it's going to go right up to the end of the pitch. It's going to go over the school. It's going to like bounce down the road past the care home that's at the end of the road. All the people in the care home like eating the soup are going to watch it like bounce past the window and like sort of drop the glasses in the soup. And then everybody will just be like dumbstruck and they'll like gaze back to me and they will just start slowly clapping. But no, it's a kind of thing.
I played cricket with my nephews about 2 or 3 years ago, and it was exactly how you imagined it. And literally, they were hitting the ball, and I was like, "Boop, there you go, chase that, kids. Boop, go on there, chase that, kids."
It's the kind of thing batting a ball, you assume, right, I'll be awesome at this without any basis in like evidence. You just assume that you'd be good at doing the batting stuff. Same thing I think applies, definitely for me anyway, archery. For no reason, I assumed, oh yeah, I'll be awesome at archery. You know, I'll be like Robin Hood, Legolas sort of thing. Utter shit. You know, I took some students, I took some students, some teenagers on like outdoor adventure things, and they were all doing archery and stuff. And I was a million times worse than them. It absolutely crushed my dreams. You just assume you're going to be good at archery. You assume you're going to be like the best batsman on earth. So mainly it's beef with myself rather than beef with the world of cricket. Anyway, we're digressing into real sports here and not fictitious sports. I think people playing it in real life, it's a little bit close to live action role playing. And I think if you're going to call it live action role playing and cosplaying and fantasy stuff is all fine. But if you're going to call it a sport, and you're going to be like sticking a broomstick between your legs and running around on like a badminton court or whatever, then I think shame on you.
I would absolutely love to see. Have you seen those like drone like bike things? Been using them in like the Middle East, like where they've got loads of money, and they're basically just like policemen flying around on these like quad bike things. I would absolutely watch Quidditch if there was 12 people on hovering bikes trying to chase and play that game. Absolutely on board.
Okay, you've strayed from the world of fantasy fiction into the world of almost science fiction there, Mr. Seven. So let's move on to science fiction and the world of fictitious sports. Well, we have 2 entries coming up next. Do you want to go first, Luke, or should I?
No, let's talk Star Trek.